Wow, I cannot imagine a more perfect song to kick off the last talk in a series about the 4 agreements. Though I did notice when she said, "Don't take it so personally," she gestured right at me. And then I took it a little personally. Good morning, y'all. My name is Reverend Lezli Goodwin, and I get to give this talk today about the 4th agreement. But before I do that, I want to just send out my welcome to everyone who is new, everyone who's been new over the last couple of months. I've been noticing this trend that not only do we see new faces, but y'all are sticking around and getting involved and joining teams and making friends, and I just love that so much. So thank you for being here and spending your Sunday with us. And that goes for you guys online as well. Y'all, we love you. Please check in, let us know where you're watching from, and let us know if there's anything we can do to serve you, to pray for you, to be with you. So it's 4th Agreement Day, and I got to admit, I was not super psyched for this talk. I was not super psyched for this one. Reverend Karen and I didn't split up our talks based on who wanted to do which agreement. We just kind of divided it out based on the calendar, because she's got the Germans are in town. Her youngest daughter's the Germans are coming. We joked about it for weeks. The Germans are coming. The Germans are here. Her youngest daughter's wedding is next week. It's busy time for Reverend Karen. So we pushed her talks all to the front of the month, right? And then I'll take the last 2 so that she can be off doing her family thing, and that's awesome. But you may remember that Reverend Karen Lewis, in that, I think it was in the 2nd talk, she said she did an unofficial poll of which of the 4 agreements most impacted people's lives. And I think in her poll, it was the 2nd one, it was don't take things personally, that affected most people. And we both kind of agreed, kind of low-key to ourselves in the office when no one was watching us, that this isn't a community where do the best you can is that big of a deal, right? I mean, we are not a slacker crew around here. Everybody's on a service team. Everybody's on 5 service teams. We sometimes have to have conversations with each other about being on too many teams, and we all have jobs and side hustles and 44 kids. That's just me. And so, do the best you can. Sure, always do your best. It's good advice. Always do your best. But I just didn't feel like it was going to be the one that ripped our hearts open and really changed our experience. Turns out, apparently, the other 7 times I've read this book, I just glazed over this chapter. Apparently, I didn't want to hear it. Because most of this chapter should actually be titled this instead. Always do your best, and then let it be enough. Take a freaking break already. And then I was like, oh, now I know why it fell on my week. They say you always give the talk you need. I need it. So what are we doing our best on when we always do our best? What are we doing our best on? And the answer is the other 3 agreements. The other 3 agreements. Be impeccable with your word. On the outside, gossip, meanness, that kind of stuff. And on the inside, that inner critic that Lily sang about. I'm not the only one with an inner committee. Oh, right? Don't take anything personally. Y'all, it's not about you. Ooh, that one worked me. Did that work, anybody? Ooh, been working on that one ever since. Don't make assumptions, because we think we know, don't we? We think we know, and we think everybody else thinks what we think. This is my favorite way to do it. Everybody should want to do it that way. Everyone does want to do it that way, and if they don't, they're wrong. Don't make assumptions, because we can't know. We don't know. And then always do our best to continually live up to those agreements. Oh, breathe it in. Always least do your best to live up to those agreements. That's a big ask. That's a big ask. Luckily, Don Miguel Ruiz, in the 4 agreements, gives us a couple of things to keep in mind to help make this process easier. The first one to remember is that your best changes from day to day. If you're sleepy like that puppy, you're going to have a different day than if you're wide awake and well rested. We're going to do better when we're sober than we are when we're drunk, and unless it's karaoke, and then all bets are off. I even do better sober at that, I'm telling you. We're going to do better when we're happy than when we're stressed out or anxious or upset. It's just different. We're going to do better when we're healthy than we are when we're sick or injured. And what we tend to try to do to ourselves is hold ourselves to the highest that we could ever do on the best day that we ever did it, without taking into account what else is going on. And it's not fair, and it's not reasonable, and we wouldn't do it to anybody else. Anybody else shows up and they're limping on a cane, for example, hypothetically, and they are obviously tired and obviously not feeling well, and they insisted, I'm fine, I can do it, I'm fine, I'm fine, I'm fine. None of you have ever seen this, right? That's right. What do we think in our minds, and hopefully comes out of our mouth, is, sweetie, sit down. Take a break. Can somebody else come? How can I help you? What can we do? But if, for example, theoretically, entirely hypothetically, I were in that situation, how awesome was I at letting myself be helped? My husband from the front row just said, you sucked. He's right. He's totally right. At least this time I let myself use the cane, which is help. You got to claim the little progress, y'all. You got to claim the little progress. What Don Miguel Ruiz tells us is that since our best changes from day to day, it's all about balance. If we overdo, we land in depleted body, depleted mind, depleted spirit, crabby, exhausted, ineffective. Anybody ever lived that life? If we underdo, then we get guilt, frustration, regret, wasted time, wasted life. I should be somewhere else along the line by now. That sort of internal banter that just kind of keeps pulling us down. The I shoulds, why didn't I? The goal is to stick in the middle, to find the middle ground. Because without action, nothing happens. We don't move forward, the world doesn't move forward. But if we get so caught in the action that we can't even see that we're killing ourselves, we can't help anybody, we can't even help us. So, a thing that you should know about me is that I have many weird quirks. I'm going to share one of them with you. I have a little bit of a weird quirk where if a bunch of people come to me and say, you, of all people, have to watch this movie, I won't go see it. I don't know. It's a weird inner resistance thing. You have to read this book. The more people that tell me, the more I'm like, I will never read this book. I don't know. I'm a strange cat. So I'm not joking, like the 50th person says to me, you have to read Rachel Hollis's book, Girl, Wash Your Face. You, Leslie, have to read this book. Fine. It came up in my free audio book queue from the library app. Fine, I'll listen to it. Fine. And right away, she kicks off. She's just ridiculously perky. Yeah, like I have a right to. I do hear the irony. And she's a lifestyle brand author, just doing her thing. And she's super Christian. She was raised by a traditional preacher. She considers herself a pastor's kid. She quotes a lot of biblical scripture. She's clearly whip smart. I literally had no idea who this woman is. And well, whatever. And then she starts off her first chapter talking about how she worked herself so hard that she developed Bell's palsy at like 23. And they tried everything. They tried medications, they tried therapy, they tried supplements, they tried physical therapy. Nothing's working. And finally her doctor puts it together. Look, every time you have an episode of this, it's when, a bunch of employees quit, or you're going to Europe, or some huge thing is happening. Is there a chance it's just stress? And prescribed her to go home and do nothing. Y'all, this is not homework I would enjoy. This is not homework Rachel Hollis enjoyed either. I suspect that we are kindreds, and I suspect that is why 50 people told me to read this book. Because what she had to learn is, if you hold yourself to the best you've ever done as your best, and you push yourself to that place every time, you will make yourself sick. You will kill yourself. For me, it shows up in obvious physical ways. Y'all know when I'm doing it, right? The cane shows up. The face, the hair gets really sad. My manifestations of pushing too hard are super literal and very on the surface, which is probably a good thing because I can't ignore it, and neither can you. Some of us are doing it to ourselves on the inside. Depression, stress, overeating, watching too much television, anything that we do to hide, to escape. Doing your best gets easier when you're following your calling, when you're actually listening to the still small voice on the inside. And doing your best sets you free from the too much and the not enough. Imagine being set free from the, oh my God, I've wasted X amount of years. Imagine being set free from the, I'll never do it right. It's never going to be enough. No matter how hard I work, somebody's going to send me an email because it's just true, right? There isn't a way to please everybody. There isn't. And if that's your inner critic, it will kill you if you think you're supposed to. There isn't a way to be everywhere all the time. And if that's what your inner critic is telling you you're failing at, it will kill you because you can't be at your mom's in Central Phoenix and in LA at your friend's party and up in Canada at the minister's retreat at the same time. Or whatever your version is of that. You can't do it. It can't be done. But there's that voice in there, right? There's that voice. When we're following our calling, when we're following our inner voice, our inner impetus, we're not doing it for a reward, whatever it is. When we're on a service team because our heart is called, we're not doing it so that people think, oh, what a very spiritual person. She's on the right team. She's doing the right charity thing. We're doing it because it opens our heart, right? And I think we've all experienced the difference of doing the good thing because we're called from the inside to do it, and doing the good thing because that's what a good person should do. And Reverend Karen isn't here, so she'll just have to get me later for saying, don't. I'm kidding. She absolutely does not want you to do anything here or anywhere else because you think you have to, because you think you're supposed to. That's not what this is here. That's not what this is here. We do not want you to join a service team because you think you're supposed to, because it's on a checklist to be a member and we make you and somebody will notice if you don't. No. Because when we serve from that place, there's resentment mixed in. There's darkness mixed in. There's a lack of self-compassion and self-appreciation that leaks out as frustration and irritation and cattiness and just not showing up as our best, whatever our best is that day. But when we're following our calling, our heart is wide open. We want to be there, and our best shines forth as compassion and appreciation and mutual value and respect and true service. So when we feel ourselves not doing our best because I just don't want to be there. I just don't want to. That's my inside. I don't want to do it. I don't want to. Apparently my inner critic is a 7-year-old girl. I see Dharma, our youngest, in my head when she was like 8. But when we do it because we love it, we're intensely happy. And there's nothing to hide from. Then we don't have the overeating to eat our feelings because we have something to do with our feelings, to go out and serve or to paint that painting or sing the song or do our gardening work. We know what those things are. The thing you don't let yourself do because it feels self-indulgent, that's the thing you're supposed to be doing. Go do that. Go do that. The third thing we want to keep in mind is that every day is a fresh start. Every day is a fresh start. Our best changes from day to day. It's easier to do it when we're following our calling. And every day is a fresh start. Because how easy is it to live every day, never, ever using your words with less than impeccable perfection, never taking anything personally, and never making a single assumption? Who's lived that week? And unfortunately, that can give the opportunity for that inner critic to start going, oh, so you think that you're a spiritual person. In my mind, it's so you think you're a minister. You think you're following this teaching. You can't even follow those agreements. No. Do not listen to that voice. Do not listen to that voice. Ernest Holmes said it. I think this is such a great quote. He said, "The human proclaims the divine, and here we are. A lot of little human beings doing the best we can, laughing and crying, singing and dancing, praying and exalting, then sometimes falling into the depths of despair. Everyone does this. And the man who says he doesn't, he does. And so what? Let us accept it non-resistantly. Otherwise, we shall be so inflexibly fighting life that we get no fun out of it. You know, if the tree didn't bend a little before the wind, it would break off just like an icicle." Ernest Holmes, the founder of our teaching. And the person that says they don't, they do. They do, we do. So how do we really do our best while trusting that every day is a fresh start? We pay attention. We pay attention. We make the point of remembering those agreements. They're printed and they hang in the ministerial office. Put them somewhere where you see them. Set them in your phone alarm. Just have them fresh. Keep fresh before you the moments of your high resolve, as Thurman would say. Pay attention to how you're doing. And then when you notice you're doing well, try building more of that into your life. You know, oh, when I see it on my phone, I do really well. Great, keep it in your phone. If I don't read it for 2 weeks, I forget all about it. Okay, good to know. Put it where you'll see it. Pay attention. Look honestly at the results you're getting. Really look. Be fair about that thing about, am I getting what I say I want? And if not, maybe I need to reassess. But then let it be enough. Don't let it devolve into the self-criticism and the harping and the picking and the Because you know what that does? That makes following these agreements into one of those things you think you have to do. And you think that you can shift your heart and the way you process life from a place of resentment and resistance. No, it doesn't stick. It has to be because we want it. It has to be because it's making our life so much better that it becomes one of those things that is the calling. That's how we make the change. And he offers us this promise. As we build the habit of following these 4 agreements, it becomes easier. It becomes more natural. It just becomes who we are. And then when we slip, because we will, and those of us who think we won't, we will. When we slip, it's easier to come back to center, to give ourselves that fresh start, and to do our best from that place. Ruiz said at the very end of the book, the best way to say, I love you, God, is to live your life doing your best. The best way to say, I love you, God, is to live your life doing your best, and then let it be enough. That is the call to action. Live your life doing your best, and then let it, please, love yourself the way we love you, and let it be enough. And so it is. Amen. I'd like to invite the practitioners in service, the practitioner students, and any ministers in the congregation to stand up with me as we anchor this truth into prayer. And so here is what I know, that there is only one. There's only one power, one presence, one truth, one love, one God with infinite names, one faith with infinite ways to approach it. And as we exist, we are one in that one. So every step is in the right direction. There isn't any other way to go. There are short paths and long paths. There are easy paths and challenging paths, but they are all heading to that place of complete and perfect awareness of union with infinite spirit, with divine goodness, with Almighty God. It's the only place for us to go. And so what I speak over this group is a word of blessing, of compassion and self-compassion, of acceptance and self-acceptance, of turning that generous heart that we share with everybody else inward and saying, I love you, God, by doing our best. Because this teaching tells us that the highest God and the innermost God is the same God. The indwelling voice, the heart of our beingness, is spirit itself. And as we love ourselves, as we let ourselves be enough, it is a thank you to the divine that loves us so much that it is indwelling as each one of us. Whatever is needed by anyone within the sound of my voice is already present in the infinite oneness. So all the health and all the abundance and all the love and all the perfection that we think we're working for, it's already here. And so I just know that it rises up within each one of us and makes us aware of our absolute divine perfection, just as we are. I'm so thankful for this teaching, so thankful for Infinite Spirit, so thankful for everyone that participates in this process, in this community. I let it go into the action of universal law and let it be. And so it is.